on the brake lever here, there's a huge washer. I have no idea why this washer needs to be so large. Anyway, I'll be checking into things like that. Look, see, look, this is all loose too. Hi, I'm Paul Brodie, back in the shop where I like to be. Mitch behind the cameras. Thanks for joining us. I got a motorcycle. I got a BSA Gold Star here, so we're going to talk about that this episode. And we're going to take a little walk around and have a look at what's going on with the bike. I haven't touched it since it showed up in my shop almost a month ago, I think. So we're going to look at the bike and talk about it. And then I'm going to tell you the story of how I got the bike, because it's a good story. Okay, let's go over to the bike. All right, Mitch is going to show you a photo of what a stock Gold Star looks like. This one is not stock, but it's close to stock. What's not stock is the gas tank. It's a fiberglass gas tank, and what came on the bike was an alloy tank. It was polished, and it was a slightly different shape. I don't think the seat is stock. And the oil tank, this is not stock either. But aside from that, I don't think the bike has been touched much. It's about a 1960. I don't have the papers yet. So a Gold Star like this, it's a DBD 34. That's the one which is the most prized. And they started making them back in something like 35 or 36, but in 1956 or 57, that's when this model emerged, and it lasted until 63. So this is going to be around 1960. I got the first parts yesterday. You can see how the gaiters are really falling apart. So these showed up. I got them off eBay. They're just regular gaiters for an English bike. It fits a lot of these bikes. So first parts. Am I going to restore this bike? I don't think so. I want to leave it looking kind of old, but it definitely needs a bit of attention. So I'm not sure exactly what happened in all of its history. I know a few things, and there's a lot of loose nuts and bolts, and you can see here there's a little larger piece here, and that's supposed to go over there, and then when you pull the clutch in, nothing happened. Well, I'm not sure if these are all hooked up still. This is the advance mechanism. It comes down here, and this is the advance mechanism, and that's the magneto. So it's supposed to advance this, but I don't think anything's happening there. So I can move the lever and nothing happens. And this is the valve compressor. When you want to turn the motor over, you use the Kickstarter and you get it over top dead center. I watched a couple videos. I know how to start it. But I can't start this, and I'll tell you why a little later. It's got a fiberglass gas tank, like I mentioned, and the oil tank. See, it's got a bungee cord here. Well, that's not very good. It's kind of strange how the foot peg is here and the brake pedal is here. Normally there is more space, like this would be here. So I'm not sure why this is so short here, because this is at the back position. And the brake seems to work somewhat. This here is for the brake light switch. So when you press down on the brake, it pulls that. Now I don't know how that works. I don't have a manual or anything. So either this has to be remounted, or maybe there's something that goes there, but that's kind of an odd angle. You want it to be in line. It's missing a bolt on either side. The license plate is a 73, so I think the last time it was on the road was 52 years ago. And this is a little loose as well. Oh yeah, the wheel weights. I've never seen a car weight used on a motorcycle rim such as this. It's got 2 weights here, and on the other side is a couple more weights. So, I mean, I can just take those off. It's got alloy rims, which is nice. I guess it came from the factory like that. The center stand, I don't think it's original, and it's very hard to use. So I think I'm going to be modifying or making a new center stand, because what happens is the wheel has to come up quite a bit, and the bike is not light, and then it goes like so. So it really settles down, and it makes it hard to get the bike off the stand as well. So, but aside from this, from the gas tank and the oil tank and the seat, everything appears to be stock. So I think what we'll do is to flip the bike around now, and we'll look at the other side. Oh, this thing here, I think that goes here. This was loose on the bike, but it seems like that goes like that. And then there's a little dimple in the middle, so there's probably a little wire or something that holds that on, like a little spring tab. Anyway. Okay, we're going to flip the bike around and look at the other side. I noticed the axle has been moved out maybe, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch. And I'm guessing now, but I think the bike was on a stand for a while, and maybe the stand came under here like that, and it looks like moving the axle out, I don't know when that happened, it looks like the chrome is a little damaged, which is a shame, because aside from that, this exhaust pipe is in very nice shape, and they're probably hard to get now. It's got a little bung here, and that's what keeps the dirt out of the carburetor. It's the GP carburetor, so the bike will never idle. You always have to blip the throttle. And the kickstart, it's got a bolt in here, and that's supposed to be a cotter pin. And there's a bolt missing here. So there's a few things that are going on, and there's a bit of rust going on, and this has been bead blasted. I'll tell you about why it got bead blasted. This is just, it's not real pinstriping, it's tape. And it's got a bit of damage here. So when it gets warmer in the spring, I'll paint the tank, I'll make it silver, and I ordered some BSA logos for it, the Gold Star logo. It's red and gold, so that can go on there, and I think that'll look nice. It's got the steering damper here. This is stock. It's only got 9,475 miles on it, so the bike has not been used a whole lot. This is how it came. Look at the throttle cable. And the brake lever, or the brake cable, it kind of ends here, and you got this hanging down, so not sure why everything got unhooked like that. I guess this goes up like that, and then that cable has to run across there. That's what I think. It doesn't have a twin leading shoe brake. It's just it's a regular brake, a single side. It's just regular shoes. There's nothing fancy about this, and it's not super wide, so it's not going to stop you really fast, but it's probably adequate. I guess that's about it for showing you. And I want to tell you the story of how I got this bike. So maybe I'll grab my coffee, I'll sit down in a seat. I got new seats for my shop. How did I end up with a gold star? It was not, I hadn't been thinking about gold stars. I had a friend named Andy. Andy passed away in September, and I've known Andy since I've lived here, and I moved in here in about 1997. So we would go for motorcycle rides sometimes. There was a group of us. And Andy also liked, aside from motorcycles, he liked bicycles. So sometimes he would get me to fix his bicycle, which I wasn't really fond of because it was always pretty muddy. Anyway, we had a friendship over the years. And in September, he passed away, and it was his gold star. And when I would go around to his house, this gold star was in the living room of his house, and it was looking just fine there, and I kind of had my eye on it. So I thought in November, I was thinking maybe I could get that bike. Maybe I could buy it off the executor of the will, Andy's will. So I set up a meeting, and we went round there, and there was also a third friend involved as well. That was Eve, or a second friend involved. And so we sat down and we talked about Andy for a while. And then I asked about the bike, and so we went outside, and the bike was in the shed. It was no longer in the living room, and I made it known that I'd like to buy the bike, and maybe we could come to some sort of a deal. And the executive, Joel, he said, "Oh no," he said, "I'm going to give you the bike." That's what Andy would have wanted. So that's how I ended up with the bike. Now, the story of the bike is that Andy had owned it for a long time, and on the license plate, it's a 1973. So that was 52 years ago that the bike was licensed on the road. And Andy lived not far from here. He lived down by the river. And to get to his house, you went down a driveway that had access to other people's houses, and it was like an old alleyway. There was asphalt and there was gravel. It was kind of rough. It's not the kind of thing you'd go speeding in on a bike like this. And at the end of the driveway, you made a sharp right, and you went up the driveway to Andy's property. So the problem there was that he could never take the corner fast enough. And on these bikes have a close ratio transmission, and first gear is known for being very, very high. You could probably do, I'm guessing now, 60 miles an hour in first gear. So even on a level road, you would have to have the clutch slipping quite well to get going. And he couldn't make the corner. So that's why the bike got parked in his house, and then a few years later it was in his living room. So that was in about probably late 70s. It went into his living room. So the bike was in his house, in his living room, for over 40 years. The bike never moved. Now, what happened was, after sitting there all those years, I think the engine kind of got a little scungy and not looking as good as it could have. So my understanding of the story is that Andy took the motor out of the frame and he took it somewhere, and he did have a little bit of masking tape, but he got the whole motor bead blasted, which is a complete no-no. You do not bead blast an entire motor, because even though it's got gaskets and O-rings or whatever, some bead is going to get into the motor. So I can't start the motor until I take it all apart. And that's not going to be this year, because I got other things to do this year. And then once the motor was out of the frame, I think what happened then is that there was some masking of some parts, but then it got sprayed with a spray bomb. And that's why all these nuts and bolts are all painted, because everything got sprayed. And that's also a little bit of in my books anyway, a bit of a no-no. You don't spray over bolt heads and things like that. So I would like to keep it with some of its patina, but it's a question of how far I go. You know, I don't want to do the full restorations where the thing is just completely shiny and then it never gets ridden. I'd like to have it so that it's looking fine, but it's not perfect. So how I do that balance, I don't know. And for example, there's the spokes. The spokes are all fine, I think, but it would look nicer with a set of good spokes, you know, stainless steel. But am I going to do that? I don't know. So that's the story of how I got the bike. I went round there and I had my checkbook in my pocket, and I'd already thought about how much I was willing to spend. I never check prices. I still don't really know how much a Gold Star is worth because it doesn't really matter. I'm just happy to have the bike, and it's going to go in my kitchen because the Aramaki that was in my kitchen will be in the shop, so we can ride both Aramakis. So that's the story of the Gold Star, how I ended up with it. I did not expect to just get the bike as an inheritance. That was a complete surprise to me. It all happened very quick. Went round there, and then we went outside, looked at the bike, and 15 minutes later it was loaded into my van and it came around here. So thank you, Andy. I appreciate the bike very much, and I'm sure there'll be more updates on the Gold Star as time goes by and I get more involved with it. Thanks for watching. Mitch and I like coffees. If you buy us coffees, it really helps a lot. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.